here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
How you doing, Tamara? How you doing?
I'm okay, Al. How are you doing?
Good. Doing very well. Hey, we got ourselves a guest, a fellow who I met many years ago. And he speaks some lovely words. So I think tonight we may hear some of those words. In our pre-show discussion, I think he's got some in mind. So
Right.
why don't I just bring him into the broadcast?
Absolutely.
All right, it's time to welcome, as I said, someone I haven't spoken to in a long time. I figure like around 10 years, but I'll confirm that with him when we get talking.
Yeah.
Yes, and he's a man of many rhyming words as well.
We'd like to welcome. And he's famous too. He's won awards.
Yes, he has won awards. That's right.
Yeah.
We'd like to welcome Paul Bullock to the Pace Radio Show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Hey, we really appreciate you. We really appreciate you coming here and speaking with our listeners and speaking with ourselves and answering some questions and see where things go.
Hey, I'm excited. I like to talk.
Yes, you do. Hey, Tamara, who you got there?
Oh,
got an extra guest in there?
I can't go anywhere without this guy. His Stitch, he's got to be on my lap. So I'll just keep him here so then he's not barking, right? We got to keep the barking to a minimum. So when you got, so this is Stitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep him warm. You guys, I'm down in Texas, and you guys were talking earlier about your cold weather, and it came down our way. We speak in Fahrenheit, but we were down in the teens today, and wind chills with below zero.
Oh, and that's Fahrenheit.
Not either, is it?
Yeah, so we're getting your cold weather. We don't get it, but in short blasts, and then it goes away, and we get.
Is that what happened? Like, wasn't it Texas that had that great big winter storm a few years ago, and people it took out all the power? Are you guys in that situation again, or are you okay?
There was that was last year in February, and there were 14 straight days of sub-zero weather, I think, and there are only two electric company suppliers, and we are in the bottom part of the panhandle of Texas, and we happen to be on an energy supply that didn't fault. And so we weren't involved in the massive tragedy that happened down here in Texas where people died because they were unable to heat their homes. And we were lucky. We just cover the doors and windows and stay inside when we get Canadian weather in Texas.
In Canadian weather, right?
It is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because like is that normal for you to have little blasts like this every once in a while?
Absolutely. There's nothing stopping the air from the Great Plains, and so as the cold air rushes down into the plains, we're at the very, very southern part of the American Great Plains, and we get very cold weather at times.
Oh,
yeah, and snow and that type of thing. But
snow, we even get those 4-letter words.
Sure.
Oh shit! That's good.
I'm right in the Rocky Mountains, Paul. No. So I live like an hour away from one of the best ski hills in the country too. Like I'm actually surrounded by ski hills. We've got Panorama, we've got Kimberley, we've got Fernie, but I'm like right pretty much in the Rocky Mountains. Yeah, that run along the Alberta BC border. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that area. I've been there. I went there back in 2005 when I was on the circuit of hemp festivals throughout the Northwest that are. Back then, there were a lot of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I ventured up into Vancouver and explored the area. And this was in 2005. So It was a wonderful place. I envy anybody that lives in the mountains.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, why don't we go from the weather
Okay.
to finding out more about Paul Bullock?
Well, let's do that.
Let's do that. I always like to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
I can't recall whether you're a patient. I know what you were doing in 2010 and 2011. I knew what you're doing then. So
We'll back up even further
let's
than
go
that.
back further. Exactly. What got you involved in cannabis? Let's look at it that way.
Okay. Well, I will start back in the Seychelles Islands, which is in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Africa. And I was a young man working there, and I was not smoking, but I was introduced to a man who I worked with, and he scored some West African or East African ganja. And I began to smoke in the Seychelles on a regular basis. And then when I came home, I continued to smoke. My jump into activism started with the opportunity to get on stage in Lubbock, Texas, with the musicians here. We have a great court of music heritage here with Buddy Holly, and I could name on. But so I became part of that scene, and the musicians would ask me up to do poetry during their break times, and I was given 5 or 10 minutes to entertain drunk people. And so I had to come up with what I call bar room poetry. And so cannabis was included in the bar room poetry, and that's how I got started in the activism part of cannabis.
Being invited on stage, you're probably doing an important role for those bands by filling in time when they got set up, or
Yeah, there was the occasion that somebody might break a guitar string, and as they realized they were going to be fooling with their guitar string, they would ask, "Is Paul Bullock in the audience?" And would you please come up here and cover for me while I change my string? That happened occasionally, but the audiences were very receptive, and it encouraged me to continue, and it caught on, and I began to travel. I was around a woman by the name of Karen Abrams, who advised me to check out the Global Marijuana Music Awards, and that they had just that year included a poetry section for award. And she advised me to send my poetry into the contest. I did, and I won with a poem called Carpool Mom. And
well, would you mind?
Sure, I'll do Carpool. Okay.
All right, let's hear it. I'll put you up there. There you go.
Okay, this was the 2005 entry that won for Global Marijuana Music Awards poetry. She's a carpool mom, a Revlon blonde, and she thinks that she's so real. So then why does she conceal the color of her hair and wear fake fingernails and telltale rumors of a boob job too? So who's she trying to fool? The other moms that drive the pool? Or maybe just herself, because her mental health is what keeps her looking young, and she just turned 41, has 2 daughters and a son, and a husband, his name's Tom. And she's a carpool mom, sports some no drug bumper sticker on the bumper of her van. She's got Prozac in her purse and a cigarette in her hand. Drinks black coffee every morning, gin and tonic after dark. Keeps her sleepies in the nightstand, loves her husband. He's a narc, and she's a carpool mom. Chaperoned the 9th grade prom. Wore a ribbon on her dress that says that she protests the use of drugs like crack and cannabis, because to her they're both the same. And she pops a pill into her brain. Who let her in this game anyway? They've told her what to say, and besides, her Valium keep her calm. And she's a carpool mom with diet pills clenched in her palm, and with that tight clenched fist insists drug users should be jailed, denied bail, nailed to the cross. That'll show them who's the boss. Toss away the key, then maybe they'll see that we mean business. And she witnesses at her church. She can recite every single verse of chapter 23, book of Psalms. And she's a carpool mom, a real human time bomb in this war on drugs. She serves icy mugs of beer and cheery wine coolers with fruity flavors. Takes some pills her neighbor gave her, cures whatever ails her. She doesn't even know where they come from. And she's a carpool mom. Any slight doldrum requires a quick pick-me-up, a cup of caffeine in between drags of nicotine. Give her hands something to do. And she still hasn't got a clue that she's a drug user too. So my question is the same. Who let her in this game anyway? And don't say shame on you and tell me to stay calm when there are hypocrites out there like the carpool mom. That's it.
I love it.
Ah, yeah.
That's just absolutely fabulous. Yeah.
Oh,
Terrific. So true,
oh,
though. It's
you're bang on.
it's the absolute damn truth, right?
Oh, yes.
That's my most requested, and I call it a signature poem for me in my town. You know, you have to understand, we're in a town of about 250,000 people. And I started doing this in the 80s or 90s. So I have quite a reputation, and that poem is the most requested of all the poems that I do.
Well, I can understand, like, yeah, all the way through that. It was just, yes, he's right. Yes. Yeah. I can see Tamara back there. She was shaking her head. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get yes. But
oh, yeah.
to continue,
That's terrific. Like,
Now,
seriously,
obviously,
you couldn't get more real, because that's the absolute damn truth. And it doesn't matter whether you're American or whether you're Canadian. To be fair, Canadian moms can't get Valium quite as easily here as they can in the States, but you know what I mean? But in my in my aspect, right, it just hasn't been that easy to ever get that kind of drugs. But yeah, I gotta stop these barking dogs.
I was just say maybe maybe one of the puppies needs some. No, we never want to give our doggies our drugs. No, that's not good. But you know, calm down. So that, like, wow, like when it comes to you writing your poems, and I want to go, like, you talked a bit about your cannabis, but I want to find out, because like we just, you know, we heard a global marijuana award poetry there, and what got you to start poetry? Like, was it just something that you picked up as a kid that
yeah, I always was fascinated with the rhyme of words, and I know that that's frowned upon in some circles of poetry. The freestyle poetry is a more popular poetry now. Now, in a rap situation, of course, it's all about rhyme. So just the sound of rhyme intrigued me. And then at a young age, listening to songwriters like Bob Dylan and hearing verse that appealed to me. And then later through life, your people, Neil Young, Bruce Cockburn, those kind of artists that their words were just so wonderful. So it was just a love for words and putting them in order so that they sounded nice. At a young age, yes, very young age.
yeah.
It's a real talent. You know, like it's like somebody that can sing too. Like, just to be fair, it's something that you just don't. It's a talent. Like, you have to have it. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, really. You know, you can struggle with words all the time. You know, I mean, myself too. Like, you just struggle with it. But if you can sing, or if you have that rhyme in your head, it just kind of comes to you. Like, it's just kind of like a gift. I don't know how else to explain it to you, really.
You know, in my travels, I've attended different poetry things, slams and that type of thing, or open poetry things. And I was a very lucky man because I was invited to share audiences that were not coming to an event for poetry.
Yeah.
You know, at a poetry slam, they're going to have poetry, at an open reading for poetry. And so those people that do that are reading to other poets. And I was reading to or reciting to the general public, which is a whole different thing. And so that was inspiring. Now, to go back to 2005, when I won this award, I mentioned the name Karen Abrams, a singer-songwriter from Austin, Texas, and she had entered for jazz, blues, and something else and won 3 Global Marijuana Music Awards that year. She's a hustler, and so she got on the phone with High Times magazine and asked if her band, the Back Porch Vipers, would be able to open or perform at the upcoming Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam. And so I said, wow, that would be fun. And she says, well, I said, I'd like to go to something like that. And she says, well, you can, let's go. So she invited me to go with her band. And I traveled through Amsterdam and was on stage at the 18th Annual Cannabis Cup. And that's when I really felt like, boy, you know, I can do this. And when I got back to the States, I started calling different festivals, the Seattle Festival, the Portland Festival, Olympia. And so I just on chance went up and paid my way and just started performing my poetry at different hemp festivals. And that's how that started.
And that's how that started.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, it's something where somebody gives you an opportunity like this band did to join them.
Yeah.
You had that experience that inspired you to keep going, and I can understand. Yeah.
To go back to your comment earlier, Al, at the cannabis event in Amsterdam, the Cannabis Cup, they were having audio difficulties and stage difficulties with the band, and I went to the stage manager and I said, I just won the 2005 Global Marijuana Music Award for poetry, and I can cover for you guys while you fix your stuff. And he said, okay. So I went back into the audience and they continued to struggle with it. And the next thing I know, he was telling me, come over here. And he put me on stage. And for 20 or 30 minutes, I was in front of the event hall and I got to perform for the 18th Annual Cannabis Cup. So that was
Awesome.
how it happened.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to be prepared.
Yeah. And like all your material, I'm assuming, would all be in your head. Like you're not lugging around equipment, but you like it's like you know, Tamara, you sing. You're a singer, right? And you have to memorize all that stuff.
I tell our poets, aspiring poets, that their first thing should be that they find the poem that they enjoy the best that they've written and memorize it. Because too many times somebody may say, oh, I dibble or dabble in poetry. And somebody might say, well, do one for us. Oh, they say, okay, I'll go out to my car and I'll get one and I'll bring it back and I'll read it. And by the time they get back, the subject just changed and they've lost the opportunity to recite their poetry or perform their poetry. So for people out there that might be poets or want to be poets, that's the most important thing that I could advise anybody is to be able to recite on demand.
Yeah, because that gives you that like you say, on demand. It's there. You're ready to go.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Now, have you always done cannabis poetry, or were you doing other poetry as well before you got into the cannabis? Like obviously, you said you started young, so I gotta assume that you weren't doing cannabis poetry when you're young.
No, I wasn't, and when I was in the Seychelles, I was really starting to write my poetry, and it was corny, and it was not good, and I thought it was, but it wasn't, and so you have to start somewhere. And sometimes you look back on the things that you've created in art and you think that really not that good, but that's where we all start.
Yeah.
But as I began to do my own thing and have my own style, that's when I started writing the barroom poetry, and it was a thing where I was accepted and people wanted to hear it, and so I wanted to create more art. An artist that creates and doesn't get the public approval will soon shelter their art or stop art altogether. And because I was fortunate enough to have acceptance in the general public, it encouraged me to move on with it. So that's how that continued.
Good, good. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Tamara, we got a few minutes here. You want to throw a question? You got a question you want to throw at Paul?
I do actually. So you've been in the States, moving around doing hemp fest and stuff. How did you get involved in the Canadian side of things? So you've traveled into Canada and you met Al at TY, right? What year was that?
There was a lady that started the Marijuana Music Awards, Global Marijuana Music Awards. Her name was Tamara Newman, and we called her Tam. And she was an English lady with a job in law. She was a lawyer, and she fell in love with a man from Australia who was in a cannabis band, a pot band, and they were traveling around the world. She met that man when they were in England, and she left her job, and she left England, and she went to Australia, and she decided that she had to stay busy, so she created the Global Marijuana Music Awards. And after I had won, what she would do is she would take different genres: country, western, rock, rap, poetry, blues, jazz, and you would enter it with say a $5 entry fee per song or poem. And then she would get celebrities in the cannabis world to listen and judge. And the judge of the poetry was Jack Hare. And so, yeah. And so I got to know Jack a little bit, but she invited, because she was in Australia and so far, far away, she invited me to represent the Global Marijuana Music Awards at different festivals around the country. And be the MC, if you will, and announce the winners of each category. And so that's how I was doing that. It was probably about 7 years, 5 to 6 years that I did that. And 2 of those years were in Toronto.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we always had the entertainment and stuff. I remember that when we were at TY too. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. I would have that's where I would have saw Paul perform live. I had heard his stuff for I'm trying to think, probably 3 or 4 years after that, because of other connections and other involvement that I've been in. And it was always good to hear them. And I know that Paul's got more, but we got a couple more minutes to break. When we come back after break, Paul, can we get you to do another poem?
Sure, I'd love to.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. All right. We'll get a question in there before we get to that. Now, when you write your poems, like obviously you got your cannabis one, like the parking lot mom. That's that's the minivan mother, so on and so forth, right?
Right.
Going to the soccer games, all that. I was a soccer van, dad. I had I was going to here and there. I wasn't taking Valium or anything. I was the guy. I was the guy at the back that was doing the token and waiting for the,
Somebody's got to do it, Al.
Someone's got to do it. But no, there must be things. Is there certain things that you find that inspire you to write about when it comes to the cannabis? Is there something that you may see something in the news, or you may find out about a child? Like, I don't know if you have certain types of categories or things that you focus on all your poems. Theme, I guess I'm looking for.
Well, I found that people don't want to listen to you if you scream at them.
Right.
Or you condemn their point of view. So I felt that I just found out that if you make people laugh, they will listen, and they will reconstruct the way they think about you and about the subject that they're hearing about. And so the majority of my cannabis poetry is making fun of the cannabis community. And it's in good humor. And so if you can make people feel like they're having a good time and laughing, then you can open up the doors to some other ideas and thought waves for those people. So that's what that's all about.
Yeah.
So basically education with humor.
It really is. It really is.
Really is.
I did a one-man show with a 90-minute one-man show, and the first part was drama. I did my dramatic poetry, and the second part was comedy. And I always wanted to leave the audience laughing.
But yes.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's what they're gonna remember when they leave.
Yeah, sure.
They had a good time, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you're talking to a lot of drunks in a bar, you really better be funny.
Well, I know. I'm sort of thinking that's got to be hard. You would think, like, I know you talked about it. It was really good. No, but just thinking you're going up there as a bunch of drunks in a bar and you're reading off poetry, and they'd be going. I would think that you might not be received as well. I don't know, just because it was.
You have to be louder than them right off the bat. And they all have to say what's going on, what's going on, because this
Get
guy,
the attention.
yeah. And so once you get them turned around and and they realize that there's going to be an opportunity to laugh,
Yeah,
they pay attention. And
and I would think, does poetry sort of have one of those things where people think it's all what's the right word?
Nudie?
Some people might, some people just, don't, just don't enjoy poetry. You might think it's.
No, I don't read it and I don't seek it out. I just enjoy it myself. And I tell people that poet is really more or less writing for themselves. It's a selfish thing, because at first you write it and you have to first have your self-judgment whether it's presentable. And so you're not writing for anybody but yourself until you get out there and start offering it to people. And if they don't want to hear it, then that's fine.
They'll let you know.
Yeah.
And obviously they let you know that they want to hear more, just like I have already said to you. We want to hear more when we get back from the break.
All right.
All right. Let's see. We'll return. Tamara and I return with our guest, Paul Bullock. This is the Pace Radio Show. We are live here on the Pace Radio Network's YouTube channel as well as on Facebook. Gotta switch the switches around here. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com. CBG TV, broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are People Advocating Cannabis Education here at paceradio.net. Well, Tamara, we got the first segment in. We're getting ready for the second one. And I think it's time to bring back in our guest to the show. We'd like to welcome our guest, Paul Bullock. We've been talking poetry. We've been talking cannabis. We've been talking bars.
And drunks.
Drunks. That's right. Talking many things. Here, I'm going to move you up that top corner there, Paul.
All righty.
That allows me, because that's the only spot where I can make you large. I'd much rather have you down here in the center, but
No,
that's just the way the program works, right? There's nothing we can do that, right, Tamara?
No. We're pretty, laid back. See, Al and I have another show that we do together too. I'm a co-host with him on Grassroots Advocate too. So we kind of hang out together once a month too.
Yeah, that's right. And Tamara, just so you know, Paul, Tamara is a host of a program on Monday nights, Canada Quebec Connection. Her and her friend Loretta Clark get together and they talk cannabis in Quebec and across Canada.
Good.
Because the difference, it's because there's different legislations in each province, right? And Quebec has got the most archaic laws for cannabis in the whole country. Like they can't grow their own cannabis there. They have to use like the stores only. There's no medical. They can't smoke in certain areas. They can't blow glass. They can't have like I guess none of us across Canada have any access to magazines anymore because we can't do any advertising. So all our magazines like Skunk and 12 High Chicks are gone. We don't have any literature.
You can't even have a cannabis leaf on a shirt or something like that.
In Quebec,
in Quebec, and here you are.
In British Columbia, it's anything goes pretty much.
Yeah.
Alberta's even like more Wild West because they have privatization. So Alberta just opened like store after store after store after store.
Yeah, they're up to about 800
already, right?
I think about 800
stores. Easy for them. And that's what they've done is they've just rolled everybody into getting like a liquor license.
And like Paul, you like you as you said, you're down in Texas, and you would hear on the news that Canada has legalized cannabis, and now all of a sudden Tamara was saying, well, people can't grow in Quebec. Well, people can't grow in Manitoba. There's two provinces here in the country where people can't grow cannabis legally.
Yeah. And you can't, and this is because the federal government legalized it nationally, but then gave the provinces the ability to make their own regulations, because we have jurisdictional things in everything that even municipalities can opt out on medical or on cannabis. Al knows about this because of his own town opting out on the ability for them to have stores. So
Cannabis
it's kind
retail
of like in
prohibition.
Denver, you know, how they gave them the option, the counties and whatever, they could pick and choose whether they wanted to have anything to do with cannabis legalization. So it's happened here in Canada too, where it's patchworked all the way across the country. But in hindsight, our maximum growth is, unless you have a medical marijuana license from Health Canada, you're maxed out at 4. And to be fair, 4 recreational plants isn't enough. You know what I mean? And if you can't obtain that license because you're not sick enough, whether you're using it for sleep or, because as far as I'm concerned, cannabis is medicinal any way you look at it, because you know what I mean? If you use it for sleep or for eating, whatever, you don't get a prescription for that kind of stuff. You use it for a headache, you go and get Tylenol over the counter. So if you're using this for a headache rather than buying Tylenol, it's medicinal. That's how I look at it, right?
I agree.
So I just think, but I mean, but in hindsight, legalization has got its bad points and has its good points. Like there are, like, I mean, our legalization has stopped our lounges. We don't have lounges and stuff anymore either, which is really hard to take. But that's coming, I think, in the future. I don't think
I think it will be. I think lounges will
but
be.
Again, you know, people aren't getting arrested for a joint. Like we were talking about the fact that, you know, protesting, we had to link arms to save somebody from getting busted from a cop for 1 joint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
we don't need to. We don't do that. We don't need to do that now. So, but yeah. So it's you know, it's not. If people think that it's a free for all type, you know, cannabis is legal, we can grow things. There's still issues. There's still things for us to improve on. And I know, I'm sure Tennessee. What's your laws like down there in Tennessee, Paul?
In Texas,
Texas. Sorry.
It's still prohibited, and they've continued to loosen the penalties as they go. We've got a really strong NORML chapter, Texas NORML in Austin, and so they do a lot of lobbying and communication with the legislatures that are in Austin, and so we see change. They've loosened up for use by cancer patients and veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. So there's a bit of leniency going on. We will elect a new governor this year, and the Democratic governor is Beto O'Rourke. That's the challenger to the Republican Greg Abbott.
You think Greg Abbott's going to go?
I don't know. You know, Beto gave a good run for the United States Senate, and he's one who would immediately, I think, go in and try to change the laws surrounding the use of.
I thought the federal government was actually looking at that, because I saw something today in Florida. Actually, one of my friends lives in Florida. She was going into lobby at the Health and Food Act, because they have legalization to a point in Florida, I guess, now, and they want to make sure that all the regulations, that it's just as safe as when you're buying your fruits and vegetables, right? For regulations on it. And she was going in, her name's last name is James. I think it's oh crap, I can't think right now, to be honest. But she's on my friends list, and she was putting up a live where she was standing outside legislation somewhere in Florida, and they were trying to get it so that it was regulated down, like work with the government to say so it's safe, right? For testing, I think is more or less what it was about too, like getting the testing done properly so that there's no toxins and stuff in it. You're not getting, what was it, precision, and they had a really great logo. It was precisely, precision, and something else, but in Florida.
Yeah, I don't have any objections to people getting clean medicine, but each state has their own regulations in the United States, and each county in those states
here too
can make their own ordinances and laws pertaining to the drug. So we have a long way to go in Texas, but I think that there's really no stopping. The plant is too valuable, not just in the realm of medicine, but also like Jack Herer was so important to this movement for so long. There's just too much value in the plant to discard it and to try to put it back away again. It's not going to happen.
Well, I think that's legalizing it nationally. I think that's
Well, they obviously got to change your federal law. Like, look how many states have it for medicinal purposes. What are you up and around 40 some odd?
I think there's 20. I think there are actually 32 medicinals, and I'm not sure what the recreational is, but
18.
Now we're next door to New Mexico, and in April, the 1st of April, New Mexico will open their cannabis stores for recreational use, and the Texas government will see
okay, Google's telling me there's 18 states that are legal in the United States.
Okay.
18. That's what Google's telling me. I just Googled it.
Well, now I would believe that before I would believe it.
Yeah. It says what states, so how many states have legalized medical marijuana? 37 states for medical.
There you go, 37.
So, right, 18 states are recreational use of cannabis, legalized in 18 states, District of Columbia, Northern Marina Island, and Guam. Other 13 states in the U.S. Virgin Islands have decriminalized its use. 18 states. And then it says 37 states, District of Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands have approved comprehensive public availability for medical marijuana cannabis programs in 37 states.
They should just change it federally. So where were you again?
Well, we share a 500-mile border with New Mexico.
Right.
So all the little towns that are along the border in New Mexico will certainly have shops available for recreational use, and there will be a mass exodus from Texas. That the Texans are going to go across the border and get what they want and bring it back into Texas and spend their money in New Mexico. And when they start looking at where the money's going and how much is being spent in New Mexico by Texans, that will be another motivating factor for our government in Texas to legalize it and tax it and make it available for Texas citizens. So New Mexico will be a pivotal step. How they do, and I'm looking forward to hearing how things go there, because people are going to rush to New Mexico.
I shared an article, as you know, reefer reporters. You know, I'm a news hawk, man. I got to get it out there.
I know.
And I shared a story tonight. New Mexico, a court ruled that they can't tax the cannabis for the medicinal users.
Well, they shouldn't. And I
exactly.
think I believe that they're going to set it up where it's family farm friendly. I know that some places it's very strict who can and who can't grow for the shops that are going to distribute it. But I think that New Mexico is going to allow for small family grows, and that will increase the revenue for the lower, for the farmers, for the farm hands. Anybody that's worked around cannabis grows knows that it's not lollipops and ice cream. It's hard work. You have to care for your plants. You have to be attentive to them every day. You have to make sure that they're doing well. And so they will create jobs. And I think that the New Mexico state government will realize it and promote it, and they'll do well with it.
Yes. Well, let's keep fingers crossed that they improve the system that you've got there in place now. The one that you have, does it allow smokables?
Say that again now.
Does it allow you to smoke? Because I know Florida, their old medicinal law didn't allow you to smoke. So I didn't know.
Like I say, they've got what they call low THC laws here, where you can't more than I don't even know what it is. It's a ridiculous number, but 5. So they're still hawkish about preventing. And
do you have a poem on the laws in Texas?
No, but that would be a funny one, wouldn't
it? There you go.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I just thought, hey, that's quite the story there about the way the laws are and what they're going through. It's a battle. So hopefully maybe you come up with something that'd be interesting. And if you do, I hope it's award winning. Now, talking about poems, before we went into the break, I said when we come back from break, we'll do a poem.
Okay.
right, and we haven't got there yet, and this segment's half over. So
Okay, well we'll do one right now, and as I mentioned earlier, the idea that we can make fun of ourselves allows me to interact with people who are anti-cannabis or pro-prohibition. So this one I did, and I usually start whatever show I'm doing, I'll start this one off because you were asking how I get people's attention, and when I get started with this one, they listen. So this is called "In the Corner of the Desk, in the Very Same Drawer." I gotta breathe. Poets, that's important. Breathe.
Breathing. Well, yeah, like really. Other than you haven't got any music, is there I'm thinking of a song. I keep going back to music, right?
Yeah, well, I do have. I think I have a nice little rhythm to my.
Yeah. Well, I know that first one you did.
Okay. Well,
and you put some emphasis. Okay, here we go. I'll shut up.
Okay, here we go. When you misplace your pot, do you hunt and peck a lot and look where you just looked before, in the corner of the desk in the very same drawer? Do you go back and forth like a mapped out course and check every place that you just now retraced and look where you just looked before, in the corner of the desk in the very same drawer? Do you check every pocket as the clock is tick-tocking and your brain is all locked up, so chalk up another look like you just looked before in the corner of the desk in the very same drawer? Do things keep getting worse as you verbalize and curse the manufacturers of the couch as you rip the cushions out and slide a hopeful hand down into the depths of the divan, then sneak a peek underneath on your belly on the floor? And then you stop to ask yourself, what the hell am I looking for? And then you snap and you get back on track and you look where you just looked before, in the corner of the desk in the very same drawer. Do you slip on your slippers and zip up your zippers and scratch your head as you look in your car and the tray down the seat, then a quick repeat and a fast retreat to look where you just looked before, in the corner of the desk in the very same drawer? Do you sit down and ponder as your mind starts to wander? Did I leave it over yonder? So you rush and look where you just looked before, in the corner of the desk in the very same drawer. Do you say, hell, I give up, it's lost, and that's just too damn tough? Where the hell did I put that stuff? So you decide you'll look just once more in the corner of the desk in the very same drawer, and you find it. And you are reminded of what you were supposed to remind yourself before, that you put your pot away beneath a High Times rolling tray in the back of the desk in the very same drawer.
Oh.
With car keys too,
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Absolutely. Or your lighter.
Yeah.
You want to go to find out you got 20 lighters, but when you really need one, you can't find one.
Yeah, and phones and just about anything these days.
Yeah.
You know,
I know I've got a Duke tube or two that are missing. I've actually got back in the Treating Yourself days, we got those glass jars. Yeah. I've got some of those. I got some of the Kif. You saw, Tamara, you probably saw my pictures of my Kif container there.
Yeah, I did.
On Facebook. Yeah. Well, I emptied that and I put them into TY jars. Well, I got a few of those missing. And I've looked at the back of the drawer and I can't.
You got mice. The mice are running in and grabbing your key from to fucking off and getting loaded.
It's in TY jars.
No, mice don't care.
I still have some of those too.
Do you?
Yeah.
I did too, actually. I think I got a couple here kicking around.
I've got I still actually have some magazines.
Do you really? I kept a lot of that.
Yeah, Bob Sears.
Yeah, it was. I still have a lot of those things that I got there.
You still do, eh?
Yeah, those were good times. I enjoyed, and what an experience for me. I was very lucky.
It was a great time. It was something that what we call, basically, it was an event that was put on patients for patients. There was a lot of emphasis there for patients. There was a lot of barriers that were broken during those shows. Just so you know, Paul, right in front of me. I can't turn my laptop around,
Okay.
but right here in front of me is the sign for the Treating Yourself Expo. I don't know if you remember the one that had the
Yeah.
big Toronto CN Tower.
I do remember it because I've kept some memorabilia from that, and I was there. I believe 2010 and 2011 were the 2 years that I went, and
Yeah.
then I think Marco had to kind of become more compact with the whole thing, and so
Yeah.
I didn't show up. I wasn't invited, which but I think that expo was as good as any. Because it was an advanced expo with doctors and PhDs and people who really knew their stuff, and it was quite an education.
Well, yeah. You're throwing there's Dr. Courtney was there. There was Dr. Robert Melamine. He was there speaking. And not only did we get to meet some of these doctors that we only saw online or through the CDs, like I got like almost 24 CDs here, medical cannabis CDs from doing documentaries at places. And seeing those doctors in person that I was only seeing again in the DVD was a great experience to be involved in and seeing.
Oh, absolutely. I treasure those times.
Yeah.
I just stumbled into it all, though. I mean, you guys have pursued it. You've been dedicated to it. And I was like a clown who just kind of fell into the circus tent and started performing.
But just think what you did. Your words educate people. We've mentioned that. They are. Yeah, exactly. And you're doing it in a different way, and you're entertaining people too as well at the same time.
And sometimes you have to do that because, like you said, people don't want to be yelled at. People don't want to hear things in a lecture form all the time because sometimes that doesn't get through. So sometimes the best way of educating people is through song and humor and education in a fun way, rather than trying to shove stuff down their throat that they're never going to get anyway, because you're going about it wrong. Like I said, you sit in a lecture hall when you go to university to hear a lecture from a professor. People don't need to do that. We need to change our approach with how you want to educate. And I think humor is a fabulous way of doing it. And again, with the poetry, I mean, like you said, it kind of sounds poetry, but it's not. It's educational words that are being spoken in a way that people are listening.
Mm-hmm.
I am now writing children's books, and for the past 2 days, I've been going to the preschool children and reading my children's books to 3 and 4 year olds, and I tell them that when words can change a person's ideas or make a person feel good, then it's magic. You can create a magic with words if you touch somebody and change their attitude or make them feel joy or happiness, it's magic, and it's something that you want to share. So that's me. I want to share this. And so you've made me feel like magic tonight.
They did. Well, hey, I'm glad. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Well, thank you.
You guys are doing a wonderful job and an important thing. And
yes. And I've always believed that the more of us that do this, the bigger the voice becomes.
Absolutely. You're right.
That's exactly it. I mean, with legalization, I think a lot of us felt a little bit taken back by it because our industry's changed, everything's changed, our community's changed hugely. But if we don't continue with what we were doing prior to, it's like a legacy that'll be lost. So, people are, why are you still doing this? Like, it's legal. Like, why are you bothering? Because there's people that are still coming up, like, they're just learning about it because it's legal, because they don't feel that stigma, because the stigmatization is starting to leave too. Like, you can go to this, like, you can just go to a store, right? And unfortunately, that's what people are doing. And a lot of people are not real happy about that, but a lot of people are like, people that didn't smoke cannabis before that might have tried it but didn't want to go and meet with somebody in an alley. You know what I mean? So it's opened the door for people that might not have used cannabis prior but will now. So that's another, like I said, it's just kind of opened the door for more people to try it. Right, Doug?
Yeah, it's the same thing here, where state by state the stigma is leaving and the open-mindedness is starting, and the truth as well, the truth about the plant rather than the fairy tale that we've been told all our lives.
I think that's one thing that's really come full circle in the 2 decades that I've been involved in this, and the closed-mindedness that people are actually seeing the difference, that it's not the devil's lettuce and it's not making people crazy. And specifically too, since legalization here, our numbers of drunk driving, like, or impaired driving for cannabis haven't skyrocketed. Like the sky hasn't fallen. Not a bunch of people getting, all freaked out, running around in the streets, like, and ending up in jail. It's just not happening, right? But that was the big, oh my God, the sky is going to fall. And it's been, what, 3-4 years now? I can't remember. And the sky hasn't fallen.
No, and it's not.
It's not gonna. No, it's not gonna. No, exactly. All right, I'm gonna tee it up for after the break again to see if I get another poem before the show ends. After break, obviously.
I'll work on one for the next segment.
All right, good stuff. All right, okay. I thought I'd get you ready for that. Okay, let's see what else. Why don't we just go for that break? I see right now we're less than a minute or a minute away from the top of the hour.
Right.
By the time I get a question in and you get an answer, it'll be 5 after 9, and we'll be going, we're late.
I just want to say that you look good, Al.
Well, thanks.
I mean, you look like you're healthy. You look like a healthy man.
Well, I'll tell you, what's on the inside is not always what you see on the outside.
Well,
yeah, but thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of work, I'll tell you.
Well, you look good, and I'm sure you are continuing to do the right thing all the time too.
That's right. Got to follow the proper diet. Tamara understands what that's all about.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
What about them chocolates you were making? How'd those turn out, Al?
Pardon?
Good.
Al was making chocolates on Valentine's Day. He was making cannabis chocolates. He was showing pictures on his Facebook, and I'm thinking,
I infuse chocolate with coconut oil, infused coconut oil.
There you go.
And the chocolates are basically on a 1-to-1 ratio with the cannabis that I've been using.
Right.
Not super strong or anything, but they are. It's a CBD strain, so it helps me at that end of things.
Right on.
Yeah. Well, when I'm eating those, I'm not trying to get high.
No.
So, alrighty. What do you say? Off to break we go.
All right.
Time to pay some bills. When we're back, Tamara and I will continue our discussion with Paul Bullock. You're listening and watching the Pace Radio Show here on the Pace Radio Network. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you think of the number of unique products developed in the fields, kitchens, and labs at Legacy 420, it's hard to think that one stands out above the rest. But tell that to the thousands of people who have tried this amazing breakthrough product.
This is our Sacred Salve. This is actually our extra strength. It comes in 5 different strengths. It's all natural, all organic. It typically works within 10 to 15 minutes of putting it on. It's good for arthritis, it's good for inflammation, any kind of pain. We're very proud of it.
Sacred Salve, so easy to apply, along with soothing relief. To select a strength that's right for you, come in and talk to your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Pace Radio Network, by patients, for patients, and for those who want to know.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com.
Let's share PACE everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Well, let's bring in our guest, Mr. Paul Bullock. He's there, and he's got some stuff that I'm going to ask him about that I think that, maybe might surprise some people, because of the fact that we've been talking about cannabis all this time and about poetry and what he does. But what we haven't discussed is what he's doing presently. And I think maybe let's get into that. What do you say, Paul?
Okay. Let's start by saying that at my age, I'm 70 now. I feel really fortunate to have a project that excites me and it makes me look forward to being older. And it started 20 years ago when I wrote a poem. My son had difficulties, both mental and physical, and so I bought a small trailer for him to live in, and he never ended up living there, but he was a big man, and so I just started working with some poetry, and I wrote a poem called "The Big, Big Man and the Tiny Little Mouse." It kind of just it was dormant in my desk for about 18 years. And then I approached a friend, an artist here in Lubbock, and asked if he would be interested in illustrating the poem. And he declined, but he had met a lady from Denmark on Instagram a couple of weeks earlier and suggested I contact her. And I did. And her name is Nina Broen, and she lives in Copenhagen. And we got together. We've never spoken. We've never met. We haven't had anything like even this kind of a chat. I send her my poetry, and she sends me her wonderful art. And so I wrote a book, the poem, "The Big, Big Man and the Tiny Little Mouse," and it was illustrated. And we came up with this. Can you see that? Let me see.
Right there. Stop. Good. There you go.
That's great.
That's great. Yes. Yes.
So it's a little book for little hands.
Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah. And the art in it is fantastic.
Right there. Oh. Yeah. And I can see it's big print as well.
Yeah. I just sent the words, and I gave Nina free reign on how she wanted to do the artwork, and so all the artwork is hers. She's given me an opportunity to go ahead and make copyrights for it and all that stuff. So we over the past 3 years have created 4 children's books together.
Wow.
This is the second one.
Skinny Katie and her potbelly pig named Sadie.
Right.
We have a question, Paul. We have a question from the audience.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if you can read that on your screen.
Hi, Debbie. Yes. I have an online shop, bookstore at paulbullock.com, but I don't have it set up for Canadian business. But anybody that's hearing this, if you'll go ahead and contact me through there, I'll make arrangements to get them to you. The shipping is a different thing, and I'm not sure how much it costs to ship, and so. But you can look at that site and see. I was so fortunate to have this lady come into my life, and I hope that maybe she feels the same about me. Over the past 4 years of working together, I think that we've become very trusting of each other, and we have created an affection for each other, even though we've never said a word to one another.
Wow.
All
this time, you've never spoken.
No, we haven't. I have suggested that we do a little meeting like this, and she said she's shy. I think maybe she's shy because maybe her English isn't perfect, or I don't know. But she just is happy with just communicating through messages.
Yeah.
And so we completed our second book. Her art inspired the second book, actually, because I thought, well, gosh, I want to see more of this lady's art. And so I wrote a second poem, The Skinny Katie and Her Potbelly Pig Named Sadie. And then we have a third book. And if you notice,
Harry Larry.
Harry Larry and his hairless cat named Mary.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. And then our fourth book, which I cannot show you, but you can see it online, is a Teeny Tiny Dot and Her Great Dane Dog Named Spot.
Oh.
So it developed into a kind of a series, but each book has a human as a main character, and his counterpart is an animal that is exactly opposite of them. And so these books are about inclusion and acceptance and friendship and outdoor activity and those type of things. And we've completed the fourth book. I haven't sent it to the bookmaker because the artist might add some art to it. But it's been a real experience for sure. And we self-published. I want control of this because I've been entrusted with this lady's art, and I certainly don't want her to be taken advantage of. If it were just me being taken advantage of, it wouldn't be the first time, so it wouldn't be any big deal. But when you bring a partner into something like this, you really have to take care of their best interest as well.
Correct.
He's much younger than me, so if this thing were to blossom and bloom and produce, she might benefit greatly from it if we hold on to it and let it grow a bit before we even consider publishing things with a larger company.
Right. So you're like you say, you're doing a self-publishing of it. But yeah, that's obviously,
That's awesome.
even though you've never spoken, it's a great friendship between you. Somebody you don't even really know other than through this, and she's trusting you with her work. And
it was a growing process, because there were times when you're not face to face and you're typing and I'm in California and she's in Denmark, and things got misconstrued occasionally, or a lack of communications, and it didn't start out. It started out well. We had some rocky roads because there was some difficulty, and then through that we grew to trust each other. And now, we live in a time when people take advantage of other people, and I wanted her to be a partner. And when I started asking her, because I had to set things up here, I needed her personal information to include her on a lot of the documents.
Oh, yeah.
That alerted her, and she thought, well, maybe this guy's not for real. And maybe it's just he's going to ask me for some money later on. But when she started seeing the end product and seeing me at the markets and seeing me interacting online with pictures, and she realized that this was a true partnership, and that I was, in fact, doing an honest job for her, then we became very, very bonded, and so we're back in sync. But yeah,
good.
a lot of these children's book publishers will not take a book with an author and an artist. They want them to be the same, or they want to put an artist with a publisher, because sometimes people do butt heads, and then all of a sudden you've lost your partnership.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, I understand it. So you mentioned markets. Just like a I guess up here we call them flea markets, or
Yeah.
because I know I've seen your pictures. I've seen your pictures. When you said the markets, I went, oh yeah, right, yeah, I've seen those pictures.
Yeah, farmers markets.
Yes, farmers markets.
Yeah, we have a summer's farmers market here in downtown Lubbock, and we participate in that. And then there's a suburb, Wolford, Texas, and they have a market. And when we're not at the summer market, the Wolford market, during the fall months, we'll do that. And we do the arts festivals. And we recently went to Central Texas and did a kids fest, and went down to the Houston area and did a holiday shopping thing. So we're trying to get out there, but I think it's better for us to stay really close to home and nurture it. And I find that these children that I'm reading to are quite rewarding, and so I'm enjoying that. And I hope to read to the young children as often as I can.
Be like sitting around with a bunch of grandchildren or something like that.
Well, you're old enough to remember the show Kids Say the Strangest Things. Or
yes, yeah. Tamara's agreeing.
I do. So
right. I absolutely remember that. Craziness.
Because when you've got 20 or 30 little children right in front of you, and you're reading a book to them, and then you offer them the stage and they have an opportunity to ask questions or to comment, you can sometimes hear something that's just so so innocent that it's almost, it makes me tear up, because it's just wonderful. That's what I said to begin with, is it's really exciting for me at my age, rather than to decide whether I want to golf for the rest of my life or go fishing, that I can interact with human beings and small human beings, and maybe influence them, and maybe make an impression upon them that would say 40 years from now, when I'm dead and gone, that they would say, oh, I remember that book, and I loved that book. And so that's a much better goal than a hole in one, I think.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's the thing, where our kids are getting so far away from books. Like, there's so much digital stuff in front of them, and iPads and all this electronic stuff, that, it's really, to have the actual a book, right? And I think a lot of parents realize that, because they all grew up with books. So like, even when, my kids were small, I mean, my kids are in their 20s and almost 30s now, but they always had books. Now I'm not sure. Like, to be fair, I mean, my oldest one's 12 now, but he had books. But everything at school, even, like, they don't even teach them cursive anymore, like to write. They don't teach them that.
They don't teach them how to write.
Yeah. Well, I was never a good writer.
You'd rather than be on a keyboard.
I don't write. Yeah. I print everything.
They print everything. Like, they teach them how to print, but it's a printing and then the keyboard.
Yeah.
So like, he's like trying to write his. I'm thinking, you need a signature, dude. He goes, I don't have one.
We had to take typing class.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It helped later on in life. It really did.
Typing. It did. Yeah. It did. Yeah. It did. It really did. When I started writing for Treating Yourself, I had to reach back. I had to reach back many years to remember how to type when I started doing the articles for TY.
Just like a bicycle.
It is. It's just like a bicycle. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Once you learn it.
Yes. The okay, I got the markets in. Okay, I got that question. I just write down little notes there as we've been talking, so I remember to go back to stuff. Yeah. Now we've been talking books. Are your books available in audio as well as in print, like, or would you be like, or in video, because you've got the artwork and all that? So are they available that way?
Not yet. I had an offer to go into a studio and do these properly. And right when I was offered, I was feeling sick. And then we had a spike in the Omicron. And so I've put that kind of stuff off. But in the very near future, we will have audio books, and I'm not savvy with the technology. So if we go into a Kindle or a book like that, download books, that would have to be somebody else's domain.
Somebody would have to load all that for you, and
but
so
I
on
have
and so forth.
I have those friends in my life, you know.
Yeah.
We'll figure it all out. We'll continue to keep up with the space age, if you will.
It's the technology end of things, right? Like even here, the Pace Radio show was the last show here on the network that went to video. All the other shows were already in video before, right?
Yeah, but it's good. I mean, that's that. I think that it helps the interaction. I mean,
crowd.
I used to do the telephone interviews, you know, where you held the phone to your head and talked to somebody else, and the audio went out over the airwaves. But this is a much better thing.
I think even with with what's the last 2 years, a lot of people have been able to connect, and a lot of people watch podcasts and stuff, so they can actually connect and interconnect with people and leave comments and stuff. I think that's been really beneficial for mental health for people for the last couple, years that we've been kind of all in the same situation where we can't go out.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, it's not the best way to communicate, but at least we've got this way to communicate.
Yeah, we've used this as an avenue to, basically what we're doing tonight, getting caught up with people who we haven't seen in a while, because there hasn't been events that we can go to in order to see each other and talk and communicate and say, hey, let's get together, and you could arrange guests for the program. It worked out really good. But now we don't have any of that presently, and it'll return.
Yeah, it will, and we're slowly getting back out. The lady that invited me to go to the elementary schools made a poignant point to me, and we were speaking with children that were 3 and 4 years old, and she made the point that some of these children have been at home for 2 years of their 4 years, or 2 years of their 3 years, and so we all are going to have to adjust, and we're all going to have to learn from this, and we're going to have to be wiser and gentler and kinder. And so, it's affected everybody in a lot of ways.
I see it's 20 after. Got 10 minutes to the end of showtime.
Yeah.
You got yourself ready, primed up for another poem?
I do.
I know he's got a smile.
I got a screaming dog. I'm ducking.
Okay, all right. We'll hold off. We'll hold off till you get back.
I think this poem is a 3-minute poem, so we can.
3-minute poem. Okay, well, that's good. Now, while we wait for Tamara, I know that I used the picture in the promo here, and I know in this desk beside me that I've got probably what was inside that picture, and I believe that was the cover of an album, a CD of poems.
That's called Manfred's Midnight Monologue.
And is it all cannabis poems, or
no?
I can't remember. It's been a while since I've listened to a CD. Sorry, but it's new technology. CDs are old now.
I know. But if you have the CD,
what about the award-winning poem for AGT? What about that one?
Well, I'm going to get to that. But that question that you just gave me, I put the album out in 2002, and I had a character named Manfred Balzac, and he was a man that loved live music, and so it was a 40-minute CD of this barfly who wanders through the music section of Lubbock, Texas, and gives you advice on life, love, drinking, drugs. It's I think it's about 49 minutes of nonstop Manfred's trip through a night of music and gaiety.
Wow.
So you should get it. Actually, I listened to it not long ago, and I laughed. I hadn't heard it for years, and so I think it's holding up. But no, it talks about alcohol abuse. But in a funny way. It talks about tobacco. It talks about trying to pick up women. It talks about all kinds of different things that you might talk about in a ballroom setting. Yeah.
Something that's even separate from the poetry in it.
Well,
or is it in poetry?
It's all in poetry.
Okay, all right.
So I took a number of, I don't know how many poems are actually on the CD, but I put them in order so that it turned out that you could start the evening with Manfred as he gets out of his car and starts going into different bars. And as he goes from bar to bar, you hear this poetry of him advising you on how to handle life's events, so to speak.
Educating again.
Very
educating. Yeah, there you go. Paul's got to have a poem before we go. Have you got a question you want to throw at Paul there tomorrow?
No, I'm good. Let's go ahead with the poem and.
All right.
All righty. Okay.
I'm going to throw in real quick that this poem has changed. We were talking earlier about life's changed, and this one is called At the Passing of the Joint.
Oh, yes.
And so, I think it's kind of shook the cannabis world where those events have stopped maybe or are not as frequent or have changed in some way. But this will be reminiscent of the way things used to be.
Okay.
And it's called At the Passing of the Joint. At the passing of the joint, as the striker lights the point, the aroma will anoint all who wait their turn at the passing of the joint. Each one gazing at the holder, and I already told her, hey, don't bogart, start passing that thing my way. You can say what you would like, but that Dubois is not a mic for you to talk in. It's a sin to disappoint at the passing of the joint. So we closely watch the transfer as it moves from her to him. Hurry up, Jim. So with a great big grin, sucks it down a quarter inch, then with a pressured pinch, he passes it along. But he pinched the damn thing wrong, and so the doobie drops, and Jim hops up and snags that pup before it burns the rug, then hands it down the line. But now the fire has declined, and so it's time to light it up again. Bum a lighter from a friend, then watch the ghostly smoke ascend as the aroma once again anoints at the passing of the joint. Hey, stop licking at that run. Just let the damn thing burn or I won't get a turn because it's getting kind of short. And I am sorry to report that I'm the last one in the circle. Then some jerk will step right in between me and the doob. Whew, what a brilliant move he made. He just moved me back a space as the clip is put in place, and the worry on my face creates a void at the passing of the joint. And now the jerk has taken 2 hits as he puckers up his lips and sucks a second blast. Then at last, hey, pass that doobie on and go back where you come from. Some nerve. I dub thee Mr. Oink at the passing of the joint. And now some greenhorn hippie wannabe gets to take a hit in front of me. It takes enough to fill 3 lungs, then coughs and hacks and bites his tongue, turns around at the passing of the joint. At last, it's my turn, but I can't get the damn thing to burn, and I cannot discern the trouble with the tiny little stubble. I cannot keep it lit, so I cannot get a hit. For the doobie, it has quit producing. It's been steadily reducing till it got to me. So I'll just stroll around the party, hope another one gets started, at which time the aroma will anoint all who wait their turn at the passing of the joint.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Another great one. 3 in a row, man. We got 3 great ones out of you.
Yeah. Well, That's what it used to be.
Yeah, well, yeah, for myself, I always passed before all this came in, but I was always told that I shouldn't because I have an autoimmune disease. So basically, what it got me to do is do what I should have done long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
For myself, anyways. That is all three of them, like you said at one point, you like making sort of bit of fun within the fun of the cannabis person within your poems, and I like
you
to did.
When I'm performing, I'll tell people, I used to say, if you've never been at a joint passing or in a circle, this is what happens, and so you give them the illusion that it's close to home. Sometimes it's close to home.
Absolutely.
I can remember when we went to the Supreme Court of Canada. Tamara, she was there as well, but you weren't on the bus. You weren't on the bus with me.
No.
I was on this bus, and there was 14 of us in the circle passing the joint. And you're going, come on, hurry up.
It was probably cold as hell too.
Somebody would butt in, right? So, perfect once again.
I can tell we've all lived through that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a shared
especially when you're the first one to light it, you think it's going to come back to you, and you light it, and then it's gone. You never see it again.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's all kind of like a big lighter.
Yes, exactly. Just so you know, we got a comment.
Great.
Brilliant. Scott Granville. You would recognize the name Scott Granville because you commented on the commercial on the Indigenous Healing Centers that he was promoting.
Right.
This is the man right here.
Scott, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Those are all old like me.
And he's a writer as well.
Great.
Yeah, he's involved in writing for doing things, and involved with some of the stuff he wrote would be dealing with children as well. So,
well, I'm available at paulbullock.com, or my email is paul@paulbullock. And anybody wants to make connections, that's great. Let's talk.
Yeah. Well, it's that time. It's shout out time. So what I'm looking for is for you to give a shout out to a person, a place, a thing, a website. Even though you just mentioned websites, feel free to mention them again, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, that's just it. If you can remember my name, you can find me. It's just there, paulbullock.com.
paulbullock.com. Now, you also got the YouTube end of things, too?
Yeah, I have a Paul Bullock 04 on YouTube, and some of those videos are so old that it's scary. It really is. I mean, I look like, anyway. They span a long time, and they I think there's 36 different poems on there, and I'm a character actor. I have a pirate that does pirate poetries, and I have a wizard that does poetry, and I have a Scotsman who does poetry. So I try to take people on an adventure in my poetry, and so it's just not all cannabis poetry or barroom poetry.
Right. Yeah.
I enjoy.
Yeah.
Good. Good. paulbullock.com. Check them out.
Right.
Yeah,
YouTube. Yeah. So if anybody out there that would like to wave and say hello.
All righty. Just so you know, Paul, I didn't say anything to you beforehand, but when we say goodbye to our listeners, we want you to hold on.
Great. Yeah.
Don't hang up when we say goodbye to everybody, just so you know.
Okay. I'm at an after party.
The after party, yeah. And thank you to you, Paul. It was great catching up with you. I see you got company.
I do. That's Mary.
Hi, Mary.
What a great show. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great. Hey, it was great having you on, Paul.
Yeah.
It was
It was
That'd be fun.
we'll have to have you back. There's no doubt about that. That was good. It was really good getting caught up. Tamara, thanks for coming on.
It's what we do on the network. We just kind of keep on keeping, right?
That's right. All right. And always thank you to our watchers and our listeners for tuning in the program. Other than that, thank you all, and good night.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.ca.